Oh, there we are.
Did you take your asthma pumps?
Yeah, I did. It's like, duh. I think I already took them this morning, but I don't know. I'm just unfit. I don't. No, it's smoking.
Yeah, I know. I always find when I cough a lot, if I go and take my asthma pump, that I'm fine.
Yeah, I know. So how are you?
Yes, a lot better. I'm more prepared today.
Yeah, I didn't mean to catch you on the hook last night, but at the same time, I love those natural.
Well, yes, of course. It was just my glasses kept on annoying because they were reflecting, so I wanted to put my contacts in just for it anyway. So, yes,
Yeah.
we're cooking with gas now.
Okay. And I want to apologise as well because I was kind of in a heap, and so I wanted to interview you, and I, as usual, went and talked too much. I have ADHD, and I try not to call them interviews because they've written on my school reports from I was little, she talks too much. Well, God made me that way, so do you know what? What are you going to do?
Yeah, I'm the same, so it's okay. I had to call me rambling yesterday as well.
No, but sometimes rambling's okay. Do you know what I mean? We're friends, and I really appreciate the buddy system we've set up. Whereas, you know, we can call each other if something's really got us stressed out, and just be there, even in cyberspace. Like I told you, I have this thing of being scared to open emails, or if I've done something wrong, I'm too scared to go and clean up the mess. So let's just focus, and I'll finish the story I was talking about in the last video at the end of this. But the thing I'm excited about, and I'm very grateful that you're willing to be interviewed about it, is that, do you mind me asking what age you are?
58.
Yeah, same as me. Wow. Okay, so at 58, you took your childhood abuser to court and won, and he's just gone to prison. And that's amazing. I mean, we don't rejoice. It's not about revenge, but justice was done to a certain extent.
It's nice to get a bit of justice because the system fails a lot of people.
I know.
So I'm saying it because I actually got justice.
I know. We need to. Every time there's justice, we need to not let it go. So that's why I said I'm so grateful for you to be willing to talk about it. So can you, if it's not too painful for you, can you rewind to how you ended up in the school, where the headmaster did what he did? Can you just take us back to when did you see things going wrong in your childhood? Like, talk from 6, 7, when did you see something wasn't right?
Well, I didn't feel that my mother cared much about me at all because I was a middle child. I was stuck between a big sister who could do everything and a baby brother who was, you know, the baby, and he was the only boy. So I didn't fit into the place, and I always felt like a misfit. And well, as I grew up, I was always the one that was always in trouble. So anyway, I ended up in a home. It wasn't a surprise. My mum couldn't handle me.
No, slow down on that, because that's a big deal. My sister went into care. It's not just I ended up in a home. That's huge. Like, that's devastating. What age were you put into care, and who
11.
brought that around? Who made that happen?
My mother.
Ooh.
Yeah.
11. And was your father around? Did you know your dad?
My father, he couldn't bear my mother anymore, so he used to go on courses all week, and he'd come home sometimes on a Saturday, but he'd go back to his bed and breakfast on the Sunday. He just, rather than leave us, he left her to go on courses and come and saw us at the weekend. But he missed so much. She was with other men, and my sister, who was only 2 years older than me, she raised me and my brother. So, it was a very dysfunctional family.
And it's sad in a way that, because so much of it ties back to missing fathers, it's sad in a way that his way of dealing with it was just to bunk it.
Yeah.
You know, because the thing that happened was when unless it's really a marriage that's not ever going to work, but it's the kids that are left to take the flak.
Of course.
My dad was hardly ever home. Sundays, mass on Sundays and Sunday lunch was about the only time that we didn't really see him. So fairly dysfunctional. Did your mum have any addictions?
I don't know. Yeah, she liked to drink. I remember her being drunk on a few occasions. I remember being up the high street. She was walking down with a man. Now, we were with her sister and it was dark. What were we doing out at that time? My brother was only 3. I'm sorry.
No, please don't be sorry. And if I go too deep, you just tell me to stop. I didn't mean to make you cry.
No, it's okay. Okay, it's just sometimes when you remember it just happens, doesn't it? But yeah, my dad missed a lot of what was going on. He just he was a good provider, but he was always absent.
Yeah, okay.
Hold on, my phone's ringing. But yeah, where were we? I'm lost.
Yeah, sorry, I just you were talking about being out on the streets late at night, which wasn't appropriate, and stumbling across your mum with another man and being upset about that.
And she's drunk on numerous occasions. And I remember my sister waking me up one day and saying to me that she heard something in the living room, and she sent me through. And I wouldn't look, but I could see that there was somebody there, but I wouldn't look. And I came back in and I told my sister, I said, no, there's a man in the room. And then later on, my sister sent me into my mum's bedroom and I seen him jumping into the bed in this silhouette. Yeah. And she tried to make, but I was a kid who asked a lot of questions. I wanted to know everything. I wanted to know the ins and outs of how things worked. I had ADHD, but they called me dysfunctional. It didn't have a label. I was just an annoying kid. It asked too many questions. So
I think when you know as a child that something's not quite as it should be at home, even if you don't understand it, one thing children do is they blame themselves. But another thing that's very common is to try and understand. I think this thing about you want to ask questions about everything. It's a kind of a driven thing that if I can understand, if I can get clever enough, maybe I could make it all feel better. It's that being out of control thing. And so a lot of people just want to understand. If I understand, then I'll know how to fix it. Anyway, so carry on. Sorry, the internet's great. Yeah. Carry on. So things are a bit. So thank you for sharing that. Is your mum still alive?
No, she's not. She died. But my mother, as I grew older, I knew that she was a daughter of incest. A daughter from an incestuous father. He molested all of his daughters, impregnated one. And it started on my sister from the age of 5.
Oh, God. So it was a generational thing. That's interesting.
Yeah. Masons as well.
Yeah, you talked about that. That's. I'd never heard from somebody sort of firsthand about the female Freemason thing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I didn't know a lot about it. I know that my mother was in the Eastern Star. My younger sister's in the Eastern Star. My grandfather, his sons were all Masons, Grand Masters and everything. I mean, when my grandfather actually was, I think he went to court for molestation, but I don't know if it was my sister. That memory is gone. But he ended up in a miners' convalescent home. He didn't go to jail. He went to a miners' convalescent home. Okay. So it was just a slap on the wrist. But it was an accepted thing, as my sister remembers my grandmother saying to her one day, go and have a lie down with your papa.
Oh, God.
Yeah, exactly. It was. So I escaped in the home, Only
And then
to,
got from the frying pan to the fire. Just on that, there was an Irish journalist that said, whose mother used to say the same thing. Her father was alcoholic and violent when he was in alcohol, and he used to come home from the pub, and the mother used to say, I'm just looking for my lighter, the mother used to say the same thing, go and lie down with daddy, you know you're the only one that can pacify him.
oh God.
So for the mother to escape getting beaten up, she was willing to sacrifice her daughter, send her to get molested, because then I won't get beaten up. It was just horrific. Horrific. And you said something else. You said my younger sister, but I thought there was just an older sister and a younger brother.
There is. That's my mum and dad's family. My sister, she's from a totally different. My younger sisters, we don't really have much to do with anymore.
She's from a different father.
Father.
Okay. And is your father still alive?
No, my father died first, and then my mother died.
Wow.
My dad had a massive heart attack, and my mum just died about. No, it's about 10 years now. But I nursed her through cancer and everything.
Oh, God, I love you. And was your father a Freemason?
No, my father hated
On
him.
your mother's side, that's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting. And I'm sorry your dad died of cancer, you know. Did you say he was a miner?
No, my father was a GPO engineer. He died of a massive heart attack. My mother died of cancer, ovarian cancer. She wouldn't go and get cervical smears and that. And what I believe it was, Angie, it was the word treatment. I was in the doctor with her once, and they went, Mrs. Donnelly to the treatment room, and she stood up and she went, Mrs. Donnelly doesn't need treatment. And she left. So I think maybe years ago when my mum was young, that was a bad word. Like, oh, look at her, she needs a treatment. Meaning, like, not something or something like that. Or goes with lots of people, I don't know. But this word treatment stopped my mother going and having smears. So she died of cervical cancer.
Oh dear, I'm sorry about cervical or ovarian?
Cervical, ovarian, it went everywhere inside.
Okay. All right. So then your dad was absent, although he was a good provider. Your mum was drinking and was already wounded and damaged, coming from an incestuous family, and drinking and seeing other men and looking for comfort elsewhere. And you kids were basically raising each other.
Yeah, basically.
And you were acting out because the eldest was perfect and the little one was favourite, and where did you fit in and so on.
Yeah, I didn't.
So it came. What grounds were for you being put into an approved school?
I remember missing school once, and we ended up in Edinburgh. It was me and another two girls, and they'd been, pinching a few things. I didn't pinch. I didn't get the chance. Not that I wasn't going to. I just hadn't had the chance. Anyway, we ended up in the police station, and my dad come and took us. I was put on probation, and from that day, if I didn't do the dishes, my mum would call the probation officer. If I touch it, right, that was it. And I think basically the probation officer thought, well, I think she could see something in my mother that escaped me, and basically put me away for my own good, because my mum was a bit nuts.
Okay. And were you made a ward of court where the family parental rights are cut off, or were you just put away?
My father used to come up to me once a month. That's how much we used to get visits. My dad used to come.
Okay.
And take.
So the fact that you were put on probation for shoplifting, and then your mum was using that as a weapon.
Yeah, to control me.
You think the social worker or the probation officer put you into an approved school for your own protection?
Basically, yeah, bottom line.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, so at 11 you go, and what was the name of the school?
Balnacraig.
And where's that? Perth?
Up in Perth, yes. It's what's known as a List D school.
Okay, tell me about that.
Well, I've known it as an approved school, but they have List D schools, so I suppose D is it's not so... It's not a severe one. Then you've got the Borstals, and then you've got the prisons. But our windows, we could only get them open that much, and the doors was constantly locked. So it was a children's prison.
It was a prison, yeah. So I think in England, I think they call them young offenders institutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, and we used to call it. There was one near where we lived in Suffolk, and we used to call it the Naughty Boys Home.
Yeah.
So one step down from a Borstal.
I mean, my mother always threatened me. I didn't hate myself going through home. That was a children's orphanage, but I ended up in Ballinacraig.
Yeah. You need to take that. You need to take it. Go ahead.
I really don't know who it is. Oh, hold on. Listen, I'll call you back in a minute. All right? No, I'm not. I'm awake. I'm in the middle of middle of an interview on Skype. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Life's. I don't do stress and pressure. So my connections on Skype are just people being real. So you don't have to be any particular way. So you got sent to Ballinacraig. Was it mixed or girls only?
Oh no, it was girls only. It was girls only.
And tell me how many inmates or whatever you want to call it.
I would say about 28, 30, something like that.
As small as that? Wow.
Yeah, it was a beautiful big house, big country mansion.
Wow.
Oh, mini mansion, I would say. Yeah. It wasn't that massive inside, but too big for a family.
Right. Okay. How many? So like 20 bedrooms? Did you have a bedroom each, or was it dormitories?
Oh no, we lived in dormitories. I ended up in a bedroom to myself. I loved it, but no, I first went to a dormitory.
How did you end up on your own?
I contracted scabies.
Oh, sorry to embarrass you.
No, it's okay. I was in the children's home, and they scrubbed us down, so they isolated me. But I didn't want to go back after that, so I got my own room. So I'm pretty glad for the scabies.
Yeah. Okay, so and what were you scared going there? What did you think? Did you think?
I didn't actually know what was happening, except for I was in the back of the car, and I remember looking up at my father, and I thought, he's crying, and he says, "You know what's happening to you?" And I'm looking at him. And I probably didn't even know what day of the week it was. He says, "You're going into a children's home." And I didn't know, I still didn't understand. And I remember going there, and I hated my mother because she went and told the headmaster, or the headmistress, it was Miss Gordon, "Oh, you do know that Beth wets the bed." And I did. I was a bedwetter right up until I was about 12, but it was just trauma, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I really disliked her intensely for doing that to me.
Yeah.
I felt she always tried to belittle me and embarrass me a lot of times, but that was one of the only times, apart from one time after that she ever came to the children's home. My father used to come on his own. She came twice.
And how long were you in there?
I was in there from 11 till I was discharged at 15, just nearly 15.
It's shocking to me that shoplifting and wagging school and being a bobby could put you in a children's home. Like, people have ended up in children's homes, and you think, what? Why? How?
In this children's home, there was people in there, kids in there, because their mum and dad had separated.
Oh,
they hadn't done anything wrong. And it was pretty bad, actually. My mum and, because you didn't say what you in for. You go, "Oh, my mum and dad broke up and nobody could have me," and found the crate. Yeah, it was pretty sad, actually. When you think about it.
Okay, so you're brought in there and you go into a dormitory, and then they is scabies? Is that like when you're very run down, no nutrition? Is it like when you get chickenpox and then scabies like that?
Newspapers, and it's mites, and that you get itching in between your fingers,
Right.
So they used to scrub me and put this benzolate down me. But the home was run by two women, Doctor, I never ever knew what her surname was, and Miss Gordon. And as an adult, I knew they're lesbians.
Right.
They lived in the same room. And I wouldn't run away because my first experience of seeing somebody who ran away, they used to strip them and they had to wear the pajama tops. But they weren't allowed to close them. And I remember I did arrange to run away with a girl called Nancy O'Neill. And she got caught. And I hooched the seats all the way up to really tell her off. And I remember looking at her and I'm saying, and then I looked down. And I thought, what the hell? And I'm looking down on her body. And I asked to go to the toilet. That's when I started to see myself develop. And I was horrified, Angela. I thought, nobody will ever do that, strip me naked.
So
and do that.
running away was you just wear a pajama top open, no pajama bottoms, no knickers?
Nothing.
Oh, God. That's not right.
No, it's not. And even as young as I was, I thought nobody's going to subject me to that, so I never ever absconded.
Okay. And what was the schooling like? What was the education?
Primary school teacher.
Just one for the 28 of you? I suppose that's the size of a class, isn't
No,
it?
not quite. A few of them went out to school, but it depended on who you were and how they felt about you, really.
Wow. So if they liked you, you could go out to school,
Yeah.
and if not, you'd get a few lessons in the home.
There was a girl there. She had her full education there because she was a pretty little thing and everything, and she happened to be Miss Gordon's favourite. Louise, her name is. I won't say her surname. Louise. And the whole school knew that she was the favourite. So she had primary school education and secondary school education.
Wow. And the rest of you were just like the luck of the
Yeah.
draw for whatever you. And what level? Not that it matters, but what level of
Stephen
education?
Jane sat on the mat. Here the cat sat. You know, things like that. Just.
So have you got issue? Have you had to learn to read and write as an adult? And things like that. Have you had any issues?
Well, I didn't come out of school until I was 11, so I could do. I got my primary.
Right.
So I could do that anyway. But as far as higher education, I've had none. Anything I know is self-taught.
Wow.
By reading and everything like that. But now I'm glad that I didn't learn anything in school because it's all a load of crap that they teach you anyway.
It's a lot of brainwashing. There is a lot of mind control, social engineering, and the same. Like my sister says, my sister that was she was actually made a ward court and ordered 50 miles minimum away from the family with no family visits. But she also says, oh, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I escaped from home. But I've learned since that there was a lot of projects going on to deliberately break up families, to target vulnerable children and remove them, and then start doing research and doing projects and doing abuse. And, you know, it's not always, oh, I was just unlucky, I got a bad experience in a children's home. It seemed to be very structured and orchestrated.
Okay. Rhesus negative.
Oh, right. Interesting.
Masons.
Freemasons, rhesus negative, generational abusive family. Very interesting.
You know, the jigsaw starts piecing together a little bit.
Definitely. And do you have any memories of any medical research, any injections, any strange drugging, anything that flagged for you at the time?
They did. I used to pass out a lot when I was a kid, always fainting and everything. And I remember going to the doctors and they said that I was borderline diabetic and I did have to have special chocolate, but that stopped after I was 12 when I went up to. But the thing was, when I went for this diabetes was Milesmark Hospital in Dunfermline, and Milesmark Hospital was for people with mental issues.
Why would they assess you for diabetes?
Yeah, you know what? That's only just that's just dropped now.
Yeah, it happens like that ongoingly. People can just say something and you go, duh, because we accept things like, I remember being taken supposedly to the dentist and being given laughing gas, but no dental treatment. And it wasn't until I was interviewed in September that I went, duh, you know, like I was, because I was told it was the dentist. And so I just thought it was the dentist. Like, we're so trusting as children. Wow. So you go supposedly for diabetes assessment in a mental health institution. Right. Okay.
So although I've got a cousin who's there in Canada, all the women went to Canada the minute they had daughters because my grandfather was still alive. They didn't want anything to happen to them. So, but my mum was the only one that stayed back because she was very codependent on her mother and codependent on her father.
Right. And did your grandfather, do you mind me asking, did he molest you?
Not me.
Okay.
He didn't. It's me. He molested my mother, and she was very codependent on him.
Okay. All right. Do you have any memory gaps? Do you have any periods of time in your childhood that you can't remember and it seems strange?
I filled that one in as a structure. I actually was doing the hoovering one day in my flat, and it just jumped into my head just to touch it and give it a little kiss. And I thought, oh my God, who said this to me? And I was terrified. And I was so scared that I shut down again for about a couple of years. But until I realised it wasn't. It was somebody in this village where we lived. I went to look for my sister, and he took me away up a little hill and that, and tried to get me to, but I just ran away from him. So I've not been molested by anybody in the family at all, to my knowledge.
Okay. And there's no memory gap. I'm just asking just because with all the different bits of the jigsaw, there's no memory gaps. You don't think, right, I don't remember the whole of being 7, or I don't remember, you know, this, that, or the other. You don't have any, just gaps. So you have to, if you don't have, it's fine.
There's gaps in my life. There's gaps in my life that I filled in. But I'll probably think about that later.
Alright, don't worry about it. If you do, let me just, give me 1 second. Sorry, just give me a second. Okay, sorry, Beth.
That's okay.
All right, so carry on. So you're out the school, you've seen your friend humiliated and stripped for running away. You're not one of the chosen ones to go out to school. Your education's patchy, and the rest of the time, what are you doing? Cleaning, or what's the day like?
Generally running and cleaning and things like that, and entertaining herself.
Right. Okay. And were there other staff or just the 2 women?
We had a cook, Miss Boyd, Miss Healy, and Ma McLeod. We had 4 house mothers, and obviously that's when when Cowlin was there. I'm trying to think how many house mothers. There wasn't any house mothers when it was Dr. Gordon, Miss Gordon and Doctor. There wasn't any house mothers then. It was when Cowlin comes, there was 4 house mothers.
Was it bullying? Was it scary? Did the girls get on?
Yeah, it's just like everywhere. I mean, on my first day, I was beaten up for crying.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I suppose it's just a hierarchy, isn't it? The ones that have been there the longest sort out the younger ones and that. But yeah, she was a bully, that Miss Gordon. You weren't allowed to leave any food on your plate or anything like that. She was just bully.
Is there any, do you mind me asking, so was there any abuse from the other girls?
Sorry?
Is there any abuse, sexual abuse from the other girls?
Not to my knowledge. I think we were all young.
Okay. All right. So what's the name of the guy that's just gone to prison?
David Cowling.
David Cowling.
Yeah.
And when did he? How long were you there before he? Why did he come in?
I think I was there nearly about a year, and
Right.
when she was retiring, she was really old, Miss Gordon.
Doctor. So Miss Gordon was retiring.
Miss Gordon was the actual headmistress. Gordon, doctor, she didn't have anything to. She worked in Larbert, in a hospital in Larbert. She used to come over and spend the weekends, obviously with her girlfriend.
Okay. So after Miss Gordon retires, it's a bit inappropriate to be a male headmaster for a girls' school, don't you think?
Well, we thought it was a bit bizarre as well.
Anyway, but you said I remember you saying in court that in a way, at first you were excited about him coming because he made a lot of positive changes.
Yes, of course. He done some good things when he came there. And, you know, when Miss Gordon was there, we were allowed to write a letter once a week to our parents. And we were allowed a visit once a month.
Wow.
I know. But when Cowling came there, we got to go home every fortnight, and we got to write as many letters as we wanted.
Right.
So that in itself was a bit of freedom.
And with hindsight, do you think he was letting you know just so he could have a bit of peace, or do you think he was doing nice things as grooming tool?
Who knows?
Okay. So how long between when he came and he was doing nice stuff and you thought, yeah, he's a good guy, how long between that and when you realised something's not right?
Oh, I didn't realise anything until he slipped into my room.
And how long was that between when he started? How long after he started?
I think he must have been there about 8 months, 9 months.
Okay. And had there been any talk of any other girls saying that he's coming into my bedroom?
No.
So you hadn't heard anything or seen anything. You took things well in court. The violence happened first. You had a go at another girl for messing up and cleaning.
Well, the girl, she was my nemesis all the way through the school. She was a bully. She was just basically a bully, and I was quite soft.
Right.
So she just used to pick on me. She had a sister in there as well, so she always had like a backup.
Right.
Her sister was actually quite all right. Elizabeth, her name was.
Yeah.
But this Rena, she was horrendous. She was horrible, and she just used to bully everybody. And I think she was very sexually aware as well by things when she used to come back from her home leaves. The things that I used to hear her talk about, you know, kissing her boyfriend and going out with her boyfriend, and she was just very into boys, even as young as she was. She was only like 15. I think she was about a year older than me.
Right.
You know, it was very innocent when I went there. Very, very innocent.
So she bullied you one time too often and you exploded at her, am I right?
Yeah.
And Cowling came and intervened, and tell us what he did.
I was in trouble, and what had happened was I was told to sweep the stairs. This Rena had left. She wasn't a girl anymore. She'd left about 2 weeks before and came back for a weekend 2 weeks later, you know, so I didn't even get a break from her. But she didn't stay in Balnacraig. She actually stayed in Mr. Cowling's house with his wife and family. And even then I did think, what the hell is she doing back so quick? I found it a bit bizarre.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm on some kind of punishment because my mouth always possessed me. And I'm brushing down the stairs and I had a whole dustpan of dust. And she says to me, go and get Louise Coulter. I went, Rena, if I leave here, I says, Carolyn's going to go mad. And she went, get her. And she kicked the dustpan. And the dustpan went everywhere.
Right.
Oh, my God. I was a red rag to a bull. I just stood up. She must have seen it on my face. And she ran. And I just head-tailed after her. And as I was running, I seen a broom. And I grabbed the broom and continued to run. And when I gets into the room, I just battered her with this broom. And obviously the commotion and her screaming has brought Cowling up. But we're in the hallway then. I remember being in the hallway. It's blank how I got out the bedroom into the dormitory, into the hallway, outside the surgery. And David Cowling he just picked me right up by my neck, off the floor, and he punched me, and then he just let me go, and I just dropped like a sack of potatoes.
Wow.
But he didn't get, he was let off with that charge in court.
The charge was dropped, and I was a bit surprised at that, because, was it because there was nobody else said he was violent? Is that why they dropped it?
Well, yeah, because I had no corroboration.
Okay, and I'm not in any way detracting from the fact that he had no right to do that to you. You talked about the blind rage where you battered her with a broom and you don't remember how you got from the dormitory to outside the doctor's surgery. Were you given to blind rages? Were you given to outbursts? Were you violent?
It was the straw that broke the camel's back. Yeah.
Wow.
I just snapped that day.
Right, and did he break your ribs? Did he wind you? Did you have any medical treatment?
Till it took my breath away. I couldn't breathe. I just dropped like a sack of potatoes. I had no air in me, and it was just, and I'd never struggled for breath like that in my
deliberately, because there's certain places you can punch that will do that.
He punched me under the solar plexus, right under there.
It sounds like he knew what he was doing.
It seemed that way, and I was against the wall, so I didn't have any. I wasn't hanging. I was against the wall, and he punched me, so it was a full impact. And I was 13 years of age.
Wow.
A 30-year-old deserves that. None at all.
Yeah, no excuse. All right, and how did you feel when they dropped that charge in the court case?
I was pissed off.
Yeah, I can understand
that. But like they say, there's no corroboration.
Right. So the only reason he got found guilty on the charge of, what do they call it? Sexual assault, sexual abuse? What do they call the charge? Sexual abuse. And the only reason they found him guilty of that was because there were two of you that reported.
Well, the original girl I had heard after I left Balnacraig about 2-3 years. I went home because I came to London, and I went home, and I remember seeing one of the girls that was in there. She only lived 2 miles. She says, "Did you hear about Cowling?" I said, "No, what happened?" She says, "He was done for interfering with Teresa." And I went, "Really?" But in my head, I'm going, "Good."
Yeah.
But as years get on, you start realizing, well, it wasn't done for me. You know, I never got my justice or anything like that.
Right.
And it wasn't right up until recently that I found out that Teresa never got her justice because she had no corroboration.
It's collapsed because nobody else came forward. And this is why they're trying so hard that when somebody's accused, they want to keep their name secret. But because, you know, they're innocent till proven guilty, but actually with children and child abuse, it's not, that doesn't apply. But one of the reasons they're fighting so hard is not to release names that are alleged abusers, is to stop other victims coming forward. Because if you'd have known that Teresa's case would collapse for lack of corroboration, you would have gone and said, "Me too," wouldn't you?
Wait, of course I would have done. I don't feel I was ready. I think it came when I was ready.
But I just think the thing about no corroboration, it's heartbreaking because there's so many, and the good thing is every time there's a denial, and they say, for instance, Lord Janner's too old, he's got dementia, he can't answer these charges. But every time they do something disgusting like that, even though he's prosecuted 84-year-old Nazi criminals, but then more survivors come forward to testify because they're so annoyed at the lack of justice. So anyway, when did you, first of all, let's rewind if you can do it. So he's picked you up and he's battered you. How soon after that did he sexually abuse you?
Quite recent after that, sort of like...
A couple of days, a week?
Yeah, a few days.
A few days later, he lets himself into your room for what?
He came in to get his rocks off, but he made it in my ear. He was saying, "I'm sorry," as he was spooning me and pulling me into him. And I was 13, but trust me, I was very innocent. I mean, that's a way back in the early 70s. We were quite shielded and quite innocent then. And
and you were still in a room on your own. You managed to stay in a room on your own. So he comes in. What time was it?
It was dark. We were in bed. I don't know. We'd been in bed quite a while. It was dark. I was sleeping.
So you were asleep when he came in?
Sleep. I woke up to this. I woke up
to him, what, in your bed, saying sorry?
He didn't get in. He just laid on top. But I was on my side. I always lie on my side anyway. So, but I felt that I thought he peed on my back. So obviously I was quite open there at the back. Maybe my blankets was down, but he laid on top of the bed. He didn't get into the bed. He didn't remove his clothes or anything like that, not at all.
So he goes to bed and he starts spooning you, and he's apparently apologising you for being violent.
Sorry.
And he's taking his rocks off.
Sorry. He just said sorry. I took it for he was sorry for doing that. And I didn't like him pulling me in, and then I could feel something stabbing me in my back. And I just laid rigid. That's all I done. I just laid there until it was gone and finished. And he peed. As you thought it was peed, but possibly with hindsight, he ejaculated. Sit like with that, and just continued to, and just went back to sleep.
He left the room after he
left us. See, as soon as all that, he just went. But that's when I smelled this disgusting smell. Oh, it was horrendous. I hated the smell, and it still makes me gag. But I now know what it is. It's alcohol and garlic mixed, and it's horrendous.
That's the first memory. When you get a trauma, your brain shuts down, disconnects, and it takes snapshots, and especially the smell, the colours, the sensations. That's called a frozen memory. So I'm so sorry that happened. And then what did you do the next morning? How did you process that?
You just have to I've been very resilient all my life. I don't know, it's just a coping skill. I've had to just get on with it. I've always been picked on all my life. I put it down. I call it middle child syndrome.
Right.
And I always make the best of a bad situation. I just ignore it and just get on with what I'm doing. And I'm still the same to this day. You know, sorry to interrupt, there was a girl talking about satanic ritual abuse in the north, and when she was asked, why she didn't do anything or tell anybody, she said, I thought it was normal. And she said, there's some things like you don't like having to eat your greens, but you do it. And I didn't like what was happening to me, but I just thought, well, I have to just do it and get on with it. And it stunned me that she thought being sexually assaulted was on a par with having to eat your vegetables. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can understand that.
So anyway, the next morning you thought, oh my God, what happened? That was horrible. And you just got up and carried on trying to survive.
Yeah, I just got on with it. You're not allowed to complain in them places anyway. It doesn't get you anywhere.
So did he try and come again? Was he awkward around you? What happened next?
Cigarettes. I must have got money from my dad when he came up, and we were going to church once, and it was me and my mate, and I said, I've got enough money for cigarettes. I said, so I'm going to run across the wooden bridge, go to the cigarette shop, which happened to be right next to the court that I was in just recently. So goes and gets cigarettes, runs along and goes up the cement bridge and catches the end of the queue and joined the queue, and we ended up in church. So as obviously the young ones in the school asking for a cigarette, and I told them they're not getting a cigarette. So it gets reported to the house mothers. So I had 3 house mothers in my room saying, come on, Beth, where's the cigarettes? And I said, I haven't got any cigarettes. We know you've got cigarettes. It's all round the school you've got. I said, I haven't got cigarettes. And they searched my room. They couldn't find them at all. They were in the hem of the curtains. Says, you know you've got the cigarettes. I says, oh, if you go out my room, I'll give you them. So they went out the room. I gets the cigarettes packet. I took about 4 or 5, threw them in the hem of the curtain and gave them the packet when they came back in. Anyway, he obviously got told about that. I was reprimanded, and he came and apologised again at night time. The only way he knows how.
So it happened more than once? I didn't know that.
No, it was twice.
I didn't know that. So the second time, same thing, just masturbates on you?
Basically.
Oh, God, I'm so sorry. I just want to ask you as well, the going to church, what denomination, what church?
Church of Scotland, Protestant.
Okay.
I was at that school, we was at that church for 2 years. I used to sing in the choir. And
that was attached to the children's home?
No, it wasn't attached. It was away down the street. We had to walk.
No, but I mean, like, so...
Oh, yeah.
And
the minister and all that used to come up at Christmas time, and, you know, we'd all gather and sing carols and everything. And yet, it's funnily enough, I don't ever remember a Christmas in there. But we never went home for Christmas. But I never remember a Christmas in there, Angie. Not at all.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Not one Christmas do I remember in there, and I was in there for over 4 years, and I can't remember one Christmas.
Wow, that's strange.
Yeah.
Strange. That's strange. So, like, just memory gap. Like, do you mean there were no presents, no Christmas tree, no Christmas day, or that you had blank memories around that time?
Blank.
Okay, that's interesting. And because the other girl that corroborated your story, it's all been reported in the Courier, can you just give me briefly an outline of what... I read some of it, and it broke my heart that they tried to assert that at 13 it was a consensual relationship and she was having an affair with him. That just broke my heart. But can you talk, just give me a little outline without reaching her...
What they said about Teresa was that he waited until after she had left school, and then she had a relationship with him, which means she must have been... He's trying to say that when she was 16, she had a relationship with him.
And he was what age? What age was he? What age was he?
What age was he?
Yeah, roughly.
Oh, he was 36.
Right, so he's trying to say he had a relationship with a 16-year-old who, you know, who was an inmate of a home that he was headmaster of. I don't think so.
And she was scorned that, you know, because she was so young, he didn't want... He's making it look like this is her just, you know, casting up this because he wouldn't be
like scorned. And he was married at the time, right?
Yes, he was married with children.
So his defence was... Even though he was a married man and he was the headmaster of a secure unit for young girls, and even though he groomed that girl from the age of 13, his defence was that he had an affair with her, which he waited till she was 16 to consummate. And because he rejected her, this is why she was taking him to court. Like,
that's what they're trying to say. But in the Courier, it said that he kissed her inappropriately. So, fondled her inappropriately, and obviously had sexual contact with her. So he was found guilty. They didn't swallow it.
He was found guilty of sexual abuse.
He was found guilty of everything. They didn't believe him.
Did you get a chance to talk to her after the case?
Didn't. No, because it was a closed hearing, as you know.
Yeah.
When I gave my evidence, a closed hearing in Scotland, we've always known that once you've gave your evidence, you're able to go and sit in. I wasn't allowed to go and sit in.
No, I remember that, and I remember, I must just say for the record that myself and Margaret, we said we'd come along. I'd come from Ireland, she'd come from Lanark, we'd come there to support you, and we asked if we could sit in court while you gave your evidence, and we were told no, that they were having difficulty even allowing you to have a victim support person I asked, is it a closed court? And he said, well, not exactly, but, you know, we've got to present a case in writing to even get her a volunteer advocate. And so I'm a bit annoyed with myself that we didn't press the point. If it's not a closed court, why can we not sit in and support our friend? And then I was even more furious afterwards when I realised that the Courier had a reporter in there each day writing a public report for the newspaper. So if a reporter was allowed in there, what the hell were they thinking, saying, no, you can't have support people in there? You know, that was just weird to me. That was weird. And also, I think I'd like you to say, I know the day we were there with you, we didn't help you the second day. Sorry, it was a long distance. But I think 5 times he intruded on your space. Can you just talk about each time we went for a cigarette, or we went for lunch, or can you just talk about how he kept encroaching on your...
Intruding on my privacy. He was just appearing wherever I was. When we went out for a before he even showed up, I walked outside and he was standing right at the doors, which I would have had to go through him to get outside. And I sort of seen him and I turned back and I got the usher of the court. I says, why? I'm trying to get out the front door. He's there. So they went and told him to go round to sit down. That was it. And then when you came and the court was adjourned for lunch that day, he started to walk through again. But one of the ushers from the court went straight in while the judge was while he was still sitting, and reported him for what he was doing. He should never have been through there. But while our trial was going on, I was reading about somebody in Perth Court there was a witness sitting in there giving evidence. The guy that she gave evidence on came into the witness room where we were sitting, and he looked at her up and down, walked out, came back in, looked her up and down, and nobody in this court's seen this. They're obviously not. They're not very good.
I think the lesson. First of all, I know at the end of the day when we were leaving, he made a point of walking again right through us to go into the closed witness waiting room space, which was, you know, if you should feel safe anywhere, it's in a witness waiting room when you're waiting to go and give
it shouldn't be in the corridor at all, never at all, because that witness is only.
And it said witness waiting rooms only or something. So now we did find out afterwards that his second wife was sitting in the witness waiting room next to ours. Now I don't know if she gave a character witness reference for him or what she was doing there, but so he could have said he was going to find his wife, but it was so inappropriate and it was so deliberately you know, to try and shake you and intimidate you. And I remember as well being shocked when your procurator fiscal was saying to you, oh, you know, are you sure you want a support person? This wasn't even talking about us. This was talking about the professional volunteer, you know, victim support person. He was saying, do you really want someone in there? Why do you want someone in there? I've got to put it in writing. And you were starting to cave and say, oh, well, maybe I don't need support. Oh, well, I don't want to be difficult. Oh, well, I'll do whatever works. It's like, what was that about?
Yeah, because first of all, before I'd even appeared in court, I'd waived these rights anyway. I says, no, I don't want a screen. I don't need anybody. I says, I'm going to face him. So I don't know if they thought it was plain sailing, but then when I went up there, Angie, before you even showed up, I hadn't even any clue that you were coming, and I was there on my own, and I started to feel like a child again.
Yeah.
And that's when I asked for somebody there, and then you walked in. I was never so pleased to see anybody than I was that day to see you. It was just awful, you know.
I can't take credit for that.
Oh, you can, and I give it to you because, like, you don't realise for somebody who thought they were alone, and then all of a sudden they've got 2 people they've never met in their life just show up.
Yeah.
It meant the world to me. That really meant the world to me.
I know, and it was the highlight of my trip. But it's the God factor I'm talking about again, is that I was in touch with Margaret, and you know, she was being supportive after I'd been burgled and this, that, and the other, and said, "Oh, come for a visit. You know, I can help you out with the computer and this, that, and the other." And I was supposed to go the week before, and it just so happened that the flights the week of your court case, it was a tenner each way. It was a tenner to fly from Dublin to Glasgow and a tenner back. So that's the only reason. And then in the group, Mind Control, Social Engineering and Diabolical Experimentation in the UK and US, you'd said something about your court case, and it just occurred to me like, wow, Scotland, I know Scotland's big, but I'll just ask her, you know, like, where's your court case? And then you said, oh, it's in the middle of nowhere, it's in Perth. And then I just messaged and then I got knocked offline for a few days. I got reported after I did that panorama review, and my page got downed, you know, to verify ID. And then I just said to Margaret, where's Perth? And is it far? There's a river going to court. And straight away she just says, oh, we'll go. I'll get you from the airport. We'll go. And literally she picked me up from the airport. I had no idea it was 90 miles. So it was so random. Do you know what I mean? It was like I was supposed to go the week before. It was so random that happened, that gives me faith. Do you know what I mean? That's like, wow, there is a God. Do you know what I mean? It was a privilege to be there, and it's like I'm more than repaid. Like, I've been asking for support, a Skype buddy, whatever, you know. Even when I reported in September in Wiltshire, they said, oh, we'll get you counselling. And I said, well, I live in Ireland, I don't know how that's going to work. And then I said to them, well, could you get me a Skype counsellor that will just Skype me once a week, because I get scared to open emails and, you know, like, do things, I prevaricate about what I need to do. Oh, no, I don't know, no, we haven't got any provision for that. And literally, you just said, oh, I'll do that, like, you know, Skype me when you're freaked out, and I'll talk, you know, talk to you while you open whatever. And I just think that survivors could do that. I've got a vision where survivors could say, right, I'm in court, you know, somewhere I haven't lived for 30 years. Is there anybody who can come give me a bit of support? Or I'm like avoiding this or avoiding that or struggling with the other. Can we speak once a week and just like, can you just call me on that? And it's so simple. It's just so simple to support each other, even in cyberspace, you know. So I would love that to happen. So he got 2 years.
Just on Friday on the 20th. So he's had about 3 weeks, 4 weeks now to sit there and worry what's going to happen to him. So
I was surprised that when he was found guilty, and the jury was unanimous, am I right?
Oh yes, it was a unanimous vote.
It was unanimous, and I'm surprised that he was not remanded immediately when they said, yes, we unanimously find him guilty of sexually abusing children that he was, you know, in a position of trust with. I'm surprised that they let him out on bail to wait for sentencing.
I'll give you up in Scotland, if you're, you know, especially now that he's 76 years of age, he'll go in, he's in now, at least he'll spend Christmas and the New Year in there, but if he's of good behaviour and the prisons are overcrowded, he'll be out on a tag within 4 months.
Which, I'm sorry, that's horrendous as well. Although I don't want to get away from the fact that I saw him strutting around in his suit with his second wife and possibly his son and trying to intimidate you and like, oh, this is rubbish. These are just like, you know, don't listen to them. They're just society's throwaways. That's what his attitude was.
That's how
he's had his punishment. He's been in the local paper. He's been found unanimously guilty. He's got 2 years.
And on the sex offenders register.
5 years on the register, is it?
I don't know how long. He's on the register, but I'll have to find that out.
Right. But so in a way, he's got his comeuppance, you know, and it is pathetic and sick if he gets out again in a few months, especially because they don't stop offending. No matter how old they get, they don't stop offending.
No.
So would you like to appeal for any other survivors to come forward?
I would. It would be intriguing to find out that we weren't the only two.
Yeah, yeah. And will you just end the interview by speaking to survivors? I want to do a part two. We'll come back and do a part two or
Okay.
part three. The part two or three is I want to find out what it cost you, those few years of insanity from 11 to 15, what kind of chaos and havoc it wreaked on your life. But we'll do that in the next interview.
Yeah.
But will you just end this one by saying to survivors why you think it was worth it to go through what you went through to get justice? How has it helped you?
It's helped me immensely because all through the years you torture yourself, you believe it's your fault. Was there something that you did that brought this to you?
Must have been your
And
fault.
I can't, I really can't say how good I feel now.
Yeah.
It's only a small amount of time that he's been given, but I've got the justice. I feel completely vindicated. I was believed. I'm not that troublesome little girl anymore.
Yeah.
I'm a big adult, but I've still got that child thing inside me that's starting to feel a lot better now.
Yeah, because you're not a liar, you're not a troublemaker, you're not attention seeking, you're not. Yeah, no.
It's not my fault.
And that shouldn't have happened.
It never should have happened. It should never happen to any child. It should never happen to anybody. And I want everybody who's in that situation to step forward. We need to talk about this.
Okay.
We need to bring it right up to the surface. We're only at the tip of the iceberg. We need to raise the iceberg.
Okay, so thank you so much. And so we'll do a part two and get down and dirty about the actual impact, because this isn't just a little something that happened that, oh well, no big deal. This actually shapes our whole lives, doesn't it?
Exactly. That something made my life horrendous.
Takes it on a whole nother tangent. But for now, I really appreciate your courage for going public. We'll talk more in the next interview about the cost, the acting out, the self-loathing, the lack of confidence, the struggling with mental health issues.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk to you as well a little bit more about the Freemasonry thing and the rhesus negative. But I think the bottom line now is just to shout out to survivors, you can do this.
Yeah, they can.
Okay.
I can do it, anybody can.
Okay, all right. I really love you to pieces.
Take care, Angie.
All right, you too.
So much. Bye-bye.
Bye.